It doesn't matter if you're selling college, cars, or candy bars. We're talking about how to improve your chances of winning with sales and advertising. It's Maven Monday. Let's jump right in. So let's jump in with a quick recap from last week. Bad advertising and bad salespeople believe their job is to educate, overcome objections, and polish their pitch. Good salespeople know that it's a much better idea to show empathy, ask questions about the customer's needs, pains, hopes, and fears, wait to talk about their product until they fully understand those, and they know that nothing happens without trust. And that trust is built by demonstrating empathy for those people that we're talking to in any situation, affirming those needs, pains, hopes, and fears systematically, and then presenting a plan to meet those. After we've done that and connected our product to the already existing needs, pains, hopes, and fears, then we have permission to ask for a reasonable next step. So this week we're talking about positioning the product. And we went through the 4 questions of better sales last week, which is that clear understanding of who we're talking to, getting obsessed with the customer, knowing them so well that we can very clearly see their needs, pains, hopes, and fears, and how our product, and then presenting our product in a way that can satisfy those. That's what we're talking about this week. Next week, we're going to cover the most reasonable next step. But if you haven't familiarized yourself with your customer, you have no business talking or positioning your product. If you have not spent an insane amount of time getting to understand your customer, then you don't have true permission to sell. The best advertising people in the world, the best copywriters, and the best sales trainers will tell you you need to spend 90% of your time in research. It's not 90% of your time on product knowledge and industry knowledge, and it has nothing to do with, ultimately, nothing to do with how you compare your product to other products available. Most salespeople think it's a competitive thing and why I'm better. There's a time and a place to do that, but if your customer does not feel heard, none of that matters. So if you don't know your customer well enough that you could literally answer these questions, these are the questions we kind of revealed to help uncover that, then you need to go back and spend more time with them or someone like them. Once you have a clear understanding of how they see the world, then and only then are you prepared to tell them how your product can satisfy one of those. So what's product positioning? It's presenting our product in a way that people feel validated and affirmed. Instead of ad speak. Ad speak is the cliche, polished hype things that none of us actually really trust in advertising. But more importantly, when people hear these little cliches and these examples of we're the best and best price guarantee and you've tried the rest, now try the best, or 186 years of combined experience, all these things that we unfortunately end up putting in our advertising, that's triggering the person to know this is not a real thing. This is somebody trying to sell me. And increasingly, as we live in a high information society, that does not work. So you need to validate people instead of try to sell them. And then you need to remind your customer of the need, pain, hope, or fear that's already existing. It's a much, much easier thing to do to go along with a already felt need, an already felt void in your customer's life rather than try to convince them that they have a different one. It's the old saying, a man convinced against his will remains unconvinced still, or a woman or any group of people. So don't try to convince people against their will. Convince them with their will. And it's just a matter of aligning what you're trying to do with what's already existing. Now, this is an embarrassingly simple, super elementary way of looking at this, but it works. So what happens when we go to start writing or talking or flapping our jaws or any amount of that is that we just kind of randomly go through what we are feeling or what we want to say at the time. And even though we can all understand it's not hard to believe that the customer will do what's in their best interest, we don't do that systematically. This is a way to do that systematically. After you've spent those time pondering the needs, pains, hopes, or fears, your job is to never say anything that doesn't align with one of those. We call them vows. In the Maven Marketer, the book that we're releasing here in a couple weeks, we talk a lot about vision, value, and vows of a business. But the vow is what's deep-seated in your company or your product's value, the benefit you provide, the thing you stand for, the things you stand against, the things you will do no matter what. And in old school language, it's just product, features and things about the product. But what you want to do is always align those with the product you're trying to sell, with the needs, pains, hopes, and fears that are already existing in your customer. So before you write or before you talk, list the things here that you're only going to talk about. And so if he or she needs this, I will vow to align my product and the things I say to that need. And it could be simple things. It could be things that you think are obvious, but they need to be said. Even when they're obvious, they need to be said. People need to hear you say those words. I understand that you are blank. My product answers that by blank. I understand that you're feeling this pain. I understand this frustrates you. Go back to all those questions and write a vow about your product or the way you do business that satisfies those. That seems simple, but it is skipped. There are big companies. You don't have to look very far to find an ad that has missed this. And when we miss this, we resort to really just making noise. And really the only people that buy from us are the ones that would have anyway, and we're not really moving the needle. So spend some time obsessing over your customer. Go back to last week. Dig into those questions. And then when you have those, you're prepared to talk about them in this systematic order. And next week, we'll talk about giving the reasonable next step and why so many sales pitches and ads go wrong at this step, which is probably the most commonly ran to thing and commonly misunderstood thing. So that is part 2 of how to improve your chances of selling anything. Have a great week.